He looked me straight in the eye and said it. No hesitation, no shame. He calls me Dad, but I feel nothing. And then, like it was a punchline, his new wife laughed and added, "Well, he's not really your blood." I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just stood there. And I said nothing. But inside, something cracked. Maybe it was the years I spent watching my son wait by the window for a man who stopped showing up. Maybe it was remembering the bedtime stories, the scraped knees, the way he'd call out Dad at soccer games, always looking for him in the crowd. And all that time, Trent felt nothing? That moment should have broken me. Instead, it rewrote everything I thought I knew. Because just a few days later, on Father's Day, my 9-year-old son stood on a park bench with 2 handmade cards clutched in his hands. And what he said? Not even Trent could laugh off. But I'll get to that. First, let me tell you about us. My name is Ava Callan, and for the last 9 years, I've been doing what single moms do best, trying to be everything at once. Provider, protector, nurse, teacher, emotional compass. I don't always get it right, but I try. Every single day. My son, Liam, was born when I was just 23. His biological father bailed before the ink on the ultrasound dried, so it was just me and Liam for a while. Small apartment, secondhand crib, baby monitor clipped to my belt loop while I graded papers late into the night. I teach high school art, and back then, I'd paint little scenes on the corners of Liam's lunch notes just to make him smile. He still keeps one in his backpack. When Liam was just about to turn 1, I met Trent Maddox. He was charming, confident. The kind of guy who opened doors, remembered your coffee order, laughed with his whole chest. We met at a bookstore, of all places. He handed me a copy of East of Eden and said, "You look like someone who reads endings before beginnings." I didn't even know what that meant, but I smiled anyway. He wasn't Liam's father, but over time, it felt like he wanted to be. He held Liam's hand when he took his first steps. He came to the pediatrician appointments, built a rocket ship out of cardboard for Liam's 3rd birthday, and the first time Liam called him Dad, Trent's eyes actually teared up. Or maybe I just wanted to believe they did. For years, I believed we were building a real family. It wasn't picture perfect, but it felt real. My mom, Ellen, never trusted Trent completely. She'd always say, "There's a part of that man that never fully arrives in a room." I brushed it off, thought she was being overprotective. Then, one day, 6 years in, Trent packed up a duffel bag and said, "I can't do this anymore." No fight, no tears, no explanation. Just gone. Within 3 months, he was married to a woman named Rhea. Young, manicured, and always laughing a little too hard at nothing. They posted matching bathrobes on Instagram before the divorce papers even cleared. Liam was 6 at the time. He didn't understand why his dad stopped showing up to school plays or why his bedtime calls went unanswered. And I just kept lying for Trent. "He's busy, sweetheart. He's working late. He still loves you. He just can't be here right now." But nothing prepared me for what he said that day. It was a random drop-off. Trent was already late. Liam had just gotten into his car when Trent turned to me, almost casually, and said, "He calls me Dad, but I feel nothing." Like it was a joke, like it was normal. Then Brielle, sitting there in the passenger seat with her sunglasses on, chuckled and said, "Well, he's not really your blood." I remember gripping my car keys so hard they left an imprint on my palm. My mouth opened, then closed. I said nothing, not because I was weak, but because in that moment I realized he wasn't worth my words. That night I tucked Liam into bed. He showed me a drawing he made at school, a stick figure of me holding a giant heart. He didn't mention Trent. I kissed his forehead, turned off the light, and whispered to myself, "He'll know. One day, he'll know who showed up." And on Father's Day, he did. After that day with Trent and Brielle, after the words that gutted me without even being shouted, I couldn't sleep. Not because of what they said, but because of everything I didn't say. But I want you to understand something. Before all the silence, before the heartbreak, there was love, there was routine, there was a little boy who believed his world was whole. And there was a woman doing everything she could to keep it that way. That woman was me. My name's Ava Callan, and I live just outside Denver in a sleepy neighborhood where the mail comes late and kids ride scooters in mismatched socks. My house isn't much. 3 bedrooms, creaky floors, paint that chips no matter how many times I fix it. But it's ours. It smells like cinnamon oatmeal in the morning and lavender laundry detergent at night. It's home. I teach art at the local high school, ceramics, drawing, and design. I've never been the cool teacher, but I'm the one kids open up to. I keep extra snacks in my desk drawer for the quiet ones. I used to bring Liam to class sometimes when he was smaller. He'd sit in the corner with crayons and wave at my students like he was their mascot. Liam is everything. He's got these enormous hazel eyes, his father's, though I hate admitting that, and a laugh that sounds like it's always on the edge of a secret. He builds cities out of cereal boxes, sings when he brushes his teeth, and once gave me a Best Mom in the Galaxy trophy made from Play-Doh and a toilet paper roll. He's 9 now, and every day I wake up asking myself one question. How do I make sure he feels safe, even when the people who promised to stay didn't? Trent came into our lives when Liam was just learning to walk. I met him by chance at a bookstore. He helped me reach a copy of The Giving Tree, and we ended up talking over coffee like it was a movie scene. I was cautious. Most men hear single mom and start eyeing the exit, but not Trent. He leaned in. He brought Liam tiny toy cars and let him drive on the dashboard during trips to the grocery store. He called him Champ. He built pillow forts and made grilled cheese with smiley faces. I remember watching them once, Liam tucked under Trent's arm, both laughing at some cartoon and thinking, maybe this is what real family feels like. And for a long time, it was. We moved in together when Liam was 4. I thought it was forever. My mother, Ellen, always raised an eyebrow about Trent. She said he was selective with his emotions. But I didn't want to hear it. I saw a man who showed up. That meant everything to me. We weren't rich, but we had stability. Liam never noticed when I skipped meals to cover field trip fees. He never knew I pulled double tutoring shifts to afford Trent's birthday watch. I kept everything spinning. And for years, Trent seemed to want the same things. We weren't perfect, but we were a unit. Then something changed. It was slow at first. Missed dinners, phone calls left hanging, weekends with work stuff that couldn't be explained. I started noticing the way Trent looked at Liam. Less warmth, less engagement, like he was going through the motions. The bedtime stories stopped. The jokes dried up. One night, after a quiet dinner, I asked him, "Do you still feel connected to him?" He said, "I'm trying. It's just different lately. He's not mine, Ava." That word, mine, cut deep. But I let it go. Because I loved him. Because I thought this was just a phase. 3 months later, he left. A bag over his shoulder and a quick, "It's not working." No warning, no discussion, no "we'll figure it out." He walked out of our lives like he was closing a door that no longer interested him, and I was left with the pieces. Again. Liam asked where he went. I lied. Again, we don't say the word abandoned in our house, but the silence speaks it loud enough. Still, we carried on. I became the mom who made pancakes in dinosaur shapes, who learned how to throw a spiral football, who sat through Minecraft videos even when I didn't understand a thing. Trent's visits grew rare. His calls, rarer. When he did show up, it was often rushed, distracted, distant. But Liam never stopped calling him Dad, even when he didn't deserve it. I told myself kids remember who shows up. That love, real love, isn't about biology. It's about effort. I didn't know how true that would turn out to be, because just when I thought Liam had stopped hoping, he asked me to take him to the park on Father's Day. And that's when everything changed. It had been a year since Trent left. 12 months of missed birthdays, vague texts, and a little boy trying not to ask the questions that were written all over his face. Trent showed up maybe once every couple of months, and when he did, it always felt more like an obligation than a choice. He'd sit stiffly on the couch while Liam buzzed around the room, showing off his latest Lego creation or begging for a trip to the park, and Trent would smile, that tight, distracted smile, and say, "Maybe next time, buddy." There was never a next time. Still, Liam never stopped calling him Dad. "Never once," said Trent. He'd draw family pictures with 3 stick figures, me, him, and a tall one with short hair labeled Dad. I should have corrected him. I should have prepared him. But how do you tell a child the man he sees as his father doesn't feel the same way? So I said nothing, and that silence became its own kind of prison. Then came the visit. Trent had texted out of the blue, "I'll pick Liam up from school Friday." Thought I'd take him for ice cream. I stared at my phone for a long time before answering. I should have said no. I should have asked where this sudden interest came from, but I knew what Liam would do if I told him Dad was coming. He'd light up. And he did. He laid out his favorite blue hoodie the night before, drew a picture to give him, spent the morning practicing jokes he thought Trent would laugh at. My heart cracked in 1,000 ways just watching him. Trent arrived late, of course. Liam didn't mind. He jumped into the passenger seat like no time had passed. I stood at the curb trying to smile, trying not to look desperate for the father of my child to just show up like he said he would. Brielle was with him. That surprised me. I hadn't seen her since their wedding photos floated onto Facebook. The two of them kissing on a beach, Trent holding champagne. Brielle tagged in a caption that read, "Built from real love." It still makes me sick. She barely glanced at me, too busy checking her reflection in the side mirror. Then Trent said it. I swear it was casual, like he was mentioning the weather. "He calls me Dad, but I feel nothing." Just like that. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even trying to be cruel. It was worse than that. He meant it. He had thought about it, decided it, and then said it like a fact he expected me to nod along with. Before I could even process it, Brielle laughed. A soft, sharp sound. And then came the dagger. "Well, he's not really your blood." The silence that followed was the loudest thing I've ever heard. My hand tightened around my purse strap. I could feel the stitching dig into my palm, grounding me. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just stared at Trent, this man who once rocked my son to sleep, who used to whisper, "I'll protect you forever," into the curls on Liam's head. Now standing in front of me like Liam had been a rental he returned without a receipt. He didn't even flinch. That's when I knew I was alone in this. Truly, finally alone. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to say, "You held him when he was sick. You taught him how to tie his shoes. You were there when he said I love you and meant it, and now you feel nothing?" But I didn't, because I was done giving my words to people who didn't deserve them. Liam came back 2 hours later, quiet. That night, he didn't say much. He just sat at the kitchen table drawing for a long time. I leaned over to peek and saw he had drawn 2 cards. One said, "To Dad." The other was blank. He looked up at me, eyes wide and tired. "Can we go to the park on Father's Day?" he asked. I hesitated. "Just us?" "No," he said. "I want to give something to Dad, and the other one, to someone else." I swallowed the knot in my throat and nodded. I didn't know what he was planning, but I knew this. Whatever it was, it came from a place deeper than I could reach. And Trent? He was about to realize that being blood wasn't the same as being a father. Father's Day was a week away, and the tension in our little house was like a low hum that never stopped. Liam didn't talk about the visit with Trent, not once, but I could feel it under his skin, in the way he bit his lip when he was thinking, or how he suddenly stopped asking if Trent was coming to his school play. Something inside him had shifted, quietly, without drama. That's the thing about Liam. He doesn't explode. He absorbs. It was a Tuesday after school when he asked if we could stop at the craft store. He stood in front of a rotating card rack, thumbing through the glittery, pre-made ones, then said, "Can I make my own?" "Of course," I said. He picked 2 blank cards, one red, one blue, a pack of gold star stickers, a glue stick, and markers. That night, he worked on them in silence. I could hear the whisper of his pen against the paper, the rustle of stickers being peeled off. I didn't ask questions. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something told me this wasn't for me. Not yet. Around 10, I peeked into his room. He was asleep on the floor, surrounded by pens and paper scraps, the 2 cards tucked carefully beneath his pillow. I kissed his forehead and didn't touch a thing. The next morning, over waffles, he finally said something. "Can we go to the park on Sunday?" "The park?" I asked. "Yeah, the one with the stone fountain. You know, where Dad used to take me to ride my scooter." I hesitated. "Do you want him to meet us there?" Liam shook his head. "I already told him." "You did?" "Texted him on your old phone. I knew the password." My stomach twisted. "Liam, what exactly did you say?" I said I wanted to give him a card, and that I'd be at the park, that's all. I stared at him, 9 years old and already handling his emotions better than most adults. Okay, I said softly, we'll go. He looked relieved, not happy, just steady, like he'd made peace with something. The rest of the week passed slowly. He didn't bring up the cards again. He didn't practice what he'd say. He didn't ask me to check his spelling or help decorate. He just kept living his little life, feeding his pet hamster, building cardboard forts in the living room, watching cartoons on low volume in the mornings. But I knew something big was sitting inside that tiny chest. Saturday night, I watched him lay out 2 envelopes on his dresser. One said, "To Dad." The other had no name. He looked up at me. "Do you think people always know who raised them?" I crouched beside him, brushing his hair behind his ear. "I think people remember who made them feel safe, who showed up." He nodded, then climbed into bed. Sunday came. The sun was high, the park almost empty. It smelled like cut grass and sunscreen. We walked past the fountain where Liam used to chase bubbles, the same bench where Trent used to buy him ice cream from the cart and pretend to steal bites. Now it was just us, me, my son, and 2 sealed envelopes. Liam climbed up on the park bench and stood tall, both cards pressed against his chest. Then he waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I almost told him we could go. And then, finally, Trent appeared. Brielle was with him, in heels far too high for a park. She looked bored. Trent looked annoyed. They walked up, hands intertwined like this was some casual Sunday stroll. Liam didn't smile. He didn't run to them. He just looked up at Trent and said, "I made 2 cards this year." He handed him the red one. "This one's for you." Then he turned to me. "And this one's for the man who actually raised me." He crossed the distance between us, pressed the blue envelope into my hand, then climbed off the bench without another word. I didn't open it right away. I was too stunned. Brielle's smile faltered. Trent blinked like he'd just been slapped with something invisible. And me? For the first time in 9 years, I felt taller than both of them. Liam took my hand and said, "Can we go get ice cream now?" And we did. That was the moment everything turned, not just because of what Liam said, but because of what he didn't need to say anymore. He didn't need me to explain what love looked like. He already knew. We didn't talk about it right away. Not the park, not the cards, not Trent's stunned silence or Brielle's awkward, too loud laugh before they left. Liam and I just walked to the little ice cream truck that always parks near the playground on weekends. He asked for his usual, cookies and cream with rainbow sprinkles. I got pistachio, like always. We sat on a shaded bench under a rustling elm tree, sharing bites and watching kids run through the grass. For a few minutes, it felt like an ordinary Sunday, but it wasn't. I looked at the card still in my hand, blue envelope, Liam's careful handwriting. I hadn't opened it yet. I wanted to, but something inside me needed to wait, like I knew once I read it, I wouldn't be the same. When we got home, I found it again on the kitchen table. Liam was upstairs humming softly while building a Lego ship. I sat down, took a breath, opened it. Inside, in his crooked 9-year-old script, it said, "Thank you for being the one who stayed. You're the real dad. Even if you're my mom, I love you more than anything." I put the card down and just let the tears come. Not because I was sad, but because I'd finally let go of something I hadn't realized I was still carrying. For years, I worried that I couldn't be enough for him, that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't be both parents, that maybe, one day, he'd look at me and see someone who'd failed to give him what every child deserves, a present, loving father. But Liam didn't need perfection. He just needed someone who showed up. The next few days were quiet, peaceful even. Liam didn't bring up the card again, and I didn't press. He walked taller, smiled easier. He stopped glancing at his phone for replies that never came. He was lighter. 2 weeks later, Trent texted. Just one line. I didn't expect that. I stared at the screen for a long time, then powered off the phone. There was nothing left to say. I used to believe silence was a kind of surrender, that if you didn't fight back, you were weak. But now I know better. Silence can be strength. Silence is watching someone try to rewrite their role in your life and choosing not to hand them the pen. It's refusing to argue with people who already made their decision to leave. It's knowing your worth doesn't need to be spoken to be seen. And sometimes, the loudest truth comes from the quietest voice. A 9-year-old standing on a park bench, telling the only version of the story that mattered. Who raised him? Who stayed? Who deserved the name? Since then, Father's Day looks different for us. We don't avoid it, we celebrate it, but in our own way. Last year, Liam surprised me with a little plaque he made in school. It read, "You're my always parent." It sits on my desk at work now, right next to a photo of the two of us holding ice cream cones and laughing. No forced smiles, no missing pieces. Just us. People ask sometimes if I ever confronted Trent, if I ever demanded he try harder, be more involved, explain himself. Here's the truth. I didn't need to. Because the story finished itself. Liam didn't need to hear a lecture. He didn't need me to prove Trent wrong. He just needed time, space, and one moment of clarity to recognize the truth he'd always felt but never named. And that truth is simple. Fathers aren't born through biology. They're made through presence, patience, and love. So to every mother who's ever worried she wasn't enough, to every single parent who felt like they were filling shoes they never signed up to wear, to anyone who's ever stayed silent when someone else tried to dismiss your role in a child's life, this story is for you. You are enough. You are the constant. And one day, whether in a card, a hug, or a quiet thank you under a summer sky, they will tell you. They know who raised them. And they love you for it. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever felt unseen, unappreciated, or like you were carrying it all alone, I want you to remember, your presence matters more than you know. The people who love us don't always come from the places we expect. Sometimes the ones who stay, the ones who love quietly, consistently, are the ones who shape us forever. If this story meant something to you, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been the one who showed up when someone else didn't? I read every single comment, and your stories matter here. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, keep showing up, because that's what love really is.